Hey there, Starseeds! Welcome to Beyond the Cosmic Table. We're a group of friends from different cultures, backgrounds, and beliefs. We gather around our table and initiate honest and open conversations on how energy and frequencies influence what we create around us. By expanding awareness, we're able to journey with practical guidance leading to our highest awareness and conscious living. So, take a seat and join us at our table. Have you ever wondered what it would be like to visit a past life? In this episode, Dianne shares with us her past life regression experience, why she went there, and what she learned from it. Our very own Avani helped take her there, and the conversation around the table on this is enlightening. There are thoughts, emotions, beliefs, and patterns from past lives that can affect us in other lives. We carry this residual energy with us, and unless we are awakened to it, we never know that we can clear it.
Hi everyone, this is Dianne with Beyond the Cosmic Table. I'm here tonight with a few other of our spirit tribe. Abby's here, Avani's here, we have Rose, Colleen, and Susan. So many of us have talked about over time about people getting readings from various psychics or different readings for different modalities, but then they don't ever follow up and take action in the real world and move forward with that. So ladies, do you have anything to add before we start talking about what happened to me recently?
I agree with you, Diane. I think there's serial people who go from readers to readers to readers, but they don't take the time to really soak in that information and do the work, kind of like you were talking about. So that's one thing that I would encourage people to do is not only go to a reader, but really soak it in, transmute it, and do something different to make your life better before just continuing on to another reader.
Well, I had an example very recent, and so much of it played out so quickly, so we thought it'd be a great opportunity to share with what it was. On November 20th, not too long ago, I got a reading from Jamie. It was a follow-up reading, and she mentioned something that had come up in a throat chakra from a past life, and it was something that I had to dive into myself. So the next day, I spent the day meditating, focusing on my throat chakra, and I always like to do some things in the physical, so I thought clearing out. So I drove to my office, and of course, we've all been working from home for 9 months now. So I cleaned up my office at work. I have no idea when I'm going back. So much of the material that was there was, out of date. So I just pitched everything at work, brought home what I needed, and cleaned it out. On Sunday morning, the very next day, I was channeling for a friend of mine, and his name is Michael. I was channeling for him, and it came across, and it said in a lifetime that him and I shared. And then all of a sudden, I was being shown an image of walking to a hangman's noose. Fast forward, I had the noose around my neck. I started looking out to the people around me, and I saw, you know how when you're sick, you have the little red in your eyes? Well, I saw that in the people around that I had been in the town with. And panic, that emotion of panic rang through me. And it wasn't for panic for dying. I mean, I knew in my own way that I was just a shell and I'd go on. The panic was for all these people, especially the children, that I could perhaps heal or at least help them. But these people, other people were going to hang me. I shared with Michael that little experience, and then he channeled for me, and I inquired, was that all you need to know about it? And his comment was, no, you need to recall as much as you can from this lifetime and find the benefits of that lifetime. Well, at this point in time, I'm going, they hung me. How can I find some benefits? But let's dive into this and see what else there was. So that afternoon, I went to a hike, because everyone knows that that's my place in nature. So I was hiking. I just kept focusing on that, focusing on the benefits of the lifetime that this situation may have played out. And it came to me that so oftentimes I find myself, I want to help everyone. I want to fix everyone. I want to make a situation better. And it came to me that no matter what I would like to do going forward, I won't be able to heal everyone. I won't be able to help everyone. Not everyone will be receiving of the information that I have to share. So I accepted that, and I did like some rituals as I was walking, just accepting that and understanding that there may even be people in my family that I won't be able to help. So it's just a matter of accepting that. Shortly after that, I had a day where I had some very severe kidney pain, and we know that kidneys is part of the elimination system. And I felt that I was just processing a lot of what I had understood so far about this lifetime. I started going for lymphatic massage, alternating that with regular massages, because I know that moving energy through the subtle energy bodies is so important when we're clearing things from the past and in the present too. So moving energy is important, and I've been trying to improve the circulation. You know, so much of us now that we're getting colder here in the Midwest. So I've been doing things like with essential oils for circulation, doing the hot cold showers, the dry brushing, and doing like rebounding on trampolines and stuff like that. So then Avani in our group here offered to do a past life regression for me. And I thought that sounded fantastic because I've only done a few of those in my 5 years of doing this stuff. She first took me to a lifetime, in this lifetime that was a happy memory. And I, of course, pictured myself hiking in nature and having a great time with some friends that I met a few years ago. So that was a great memory. And then she took me to a point in the lifetime. I was recalled high school, where so many of us in high school, we just want to be accepted. So we're saying what we think others want to hear. And of course, once again, just always trying to have everybody get along. And then she took me back to the lifetime that we had just talked about. I first arrived there, I was an older lady. I was walking down the street, and I was a very worn dress. It was leather, but it was very worn. And I knew immediately I was the witch. I was the healer, the one that was making the tinctures and stuff. It was a town in Asia in about 1420 came to mind. And I was walking to a home where a little boy was sick, and I had some herbs that they were going to give to the little boy in the form of a tea. And I knew immediately that he'd be better the next day. I grew plants and used them and the seeds to make different blends, and people paid me with food and clothing. The town people treated me very nicely. I mean, they were appreciative of the work I did, and I didn't have any family, but I was pretty much a loner. She took me forward to a new scene, and strangers had started to come to town. They had weapons, and they were killing the animals. We were mostly vegetarians, apparently, or at least treated our animals with some respect, and they were just being very cruel in that way. And I was concerned because they brought a doctor with them, or what they considered a medical professional, and they were the ones that first started calling me the witch. I was afraid of being judged and what was going to happen to me. Well, fast forward, they were hanging me. But at that time, right before that, I used my soul energy in this lifetime to transmit it to one of the little boys in front of me, as much knowledge as I could to help heal them, because I saw the sickness in their eyes, and I knew that they needed some extra knowledge to heal. So, but as far as my death in that lifetime, I knew I was just a vessel. I was not worried about myself. I crossed over and I saw the light, and it was a very beautiful experience. We looked up later, after the call, I did look up, and there was a plague in Asia. So that's kind of like confirmation. That was really cool. So the next, almost a week later, then we did a clearing. And I was just anticipating, I don't know what, I had no idea. The first part of it was so amazing. I had no idea really what to expect with the second part. But I thought we would just be acknowledging what had happened and accepting it and going on. Well, Avani took me back. Well, first of all, she guided me to a place, and we grabbed a spirit guide of mine. And Thomas is one of my spirit guides, so Thomas came along for the experience. And I was back on the street, and where I'd taken the medicine, I was walking to the same place they were having me over for dinner, which was I felt really odd that this wasn't, something that normally happened. And I was just excited to be invited to someplace for dinner. And she kind of asked some questions about that. And I said, well, it's going to be just a nice night. And if nothing else, I get to watch the children. And there was a special feeling when I said about the children. I didn't know what that meant at first. And so I got there, and there's quite a gathering of adults, and they're thanking me, and they tell me it's my birthday, and they're so appreciative. They're just showering me with all of this appreciation and joy. And recognition that I have helped them. You know, them as adults, I've helped them get better, and I've helped their children get better. And apparently there recently been an outbreak of something with their chickens that would lay the eggs, and I told them how to give them something to help take care of that and heal the chickens. So they were just really celebrating me. They were honoring me for all the work that I had done to help them. And one of the ladies took me into a side room and she gave me a new dress. And she was apologizing because it was used, but to me it didn't matter. And then there was a basket and she goes, all of the ladies gave a dress, so you have a wardrobe to choose from. I'm not an emotional person, people, but I was starting to tear up. And then the woman pulled out a brand new pair of shoes. She goes, these are brand new. No one's ever wore these shoes. But she says, when you walk to our homes, you know, you'll be able to wear new shoes in the winter as it comes. I was literally overwhelmed. I didn't know how to act. They were so appreciative. So then Avani asked me of the people there who was the most significant. And it was the little boy. His name was Thomas. And she says, why is he so important? And I said, he's my son. And I went on to say how all the children had wrapped up little gifts that they had made. They had made some makeshift wrapping paper. So I got to go through the process of opening gifts, which I couldn't remember doing in that lifetime. Then we dove into the children, and Thomas had a twin sister, so there was two of them. And she says, how did this come to be that he wasn't with you? And I said, when I was young, I birthed the children on my own. I'm not sure the circumstances, how I became pregnant, but a woman had then come to me for delivery shortly after. And my children had only been like a week old. It had been winter and I'd hid the pregnancy from the town people, but her baby was stillborn. So I put her to a slumber and took her baby and I gave her my children. I was perfectly fine with this. I felt that it was a good choice for the children because I couldn't provide for these children like this woman could. Her husband was very a wealthy part of society, one of the cornerstones of the community. So I knew they weren't leaving town and I certainly wasn't going anywhere. So I knew I would see the children. I discovered then, she said, are the children in your lifetime now? And I said, yes. And she said, well, who are they? And I said, well, Thomas is Michael. So Michael's my dear friend, and he was the one that it was channeling for me that told me to dive into this lifetime a little more. So it was kind of ironic. The little girl is in my lifetime. I'm not quite sure who she is, but I will let you know when that comes out. And the big lesson that really came about it was, it flashed back to that first question that Avani had asked me in the very first session of, you know, about like in high school of just wanting to be liked and accepted. And I said here the whole time, I think I just needed to learn to accept myself for the gifts that I have. I'm very gifted. I don't usually come out and say that, but all of the experiences that I've had are very personal through my healing journey. And I'm not going to let the past dictate the future anymore. I have a voice that needs to be heard, that there is a time for medical professionals, but there's also a time to recognize that we need to step up and do the healing ourselves. So it's a very powerful couple weeks. As you can see, this transformed pretty quickly from November 20th till last Sunday, that all of this came out. But you can see that you take physical action and you think about, meditate on these things and come up with it yourself. So ladies, that is what happened. Avani, I know you have a few things to share as well because you were witnessing all this in this past life regression and clearing. So what do you have to add?
I know, and I thank you because I felt like I went into this journey with you. Like when you described this, it was so beautiful, especially that scene, like the emotions that came up when, you know, she gave you the dress and gave you the clothes, and you just felt so welcomed by this family because you normally were living by yourself in a hut with all your, you know, herbs and just, you know, all the things that you were growing to help. And here you just, in this lifetime, you had this overwhelming sense of appreciation for being a healer. I think that was important because as you know, as you are a healer in this lifetime, we've come to realize that your healing abilities is appreciated here too. I thought that was important. One thing that I really enjoyed, and I'd like for you to describe, is the mirror scene when you're putting
Oh,
on that dress.
yes, flashing back to when the woman had given me the first dress, and I pulled it on, and the woman had given me the dress. She did something quickly with my hair, and she said, "Here, have a look." And I don't recall ever seeing my own reflection in that lifetime. I didn't have a mirror in my home, and I just remember seeing my reflection maybe in the water down by the creek. And I realized I was actually very beautiful. I had always kind of imagined myself since I was so low that I wasn't very attractive. And so in the mirror was this beautiful woman. And I can remember looking at the lady and she goes, "That's you." So it was very powerful.
Do you recognize that beautiful woman now in this lifetime?
It's me. It is me. Yeah.
One other thing before I know I'm stealing everybody else's question time. Can you talk about when you first started and your throat chakra was affected and how we came to realize what had happened in that lifetime and how it affected your throat chakra?
Well, like I said, Jamie had told me about that. And I think we've come up, Abby's been has over time, and we've always known that communication is something that's always been a struggle for me because I don't always speak my piece. I'm always worried or, concerned on what people are going to think or had been. And now more and more I'm letting go of that because it is just a matter of looking at ourselves and being able to speak your truth. If someone else doesn't agree with you, that's fine. And I never try to push my ideas or my beliefs on other people. If they want to ask my stories, as you all know, I'm very open to sharing the stories that I've been through, even back to being sick now, that I understand that it was all part of the healing journey. I'd once hidden my disease to no end, and I never wanted anybody to know what was going on with me. And now here I'm writing about it on my blogs and sharing it with anybody that'll listen. But I am the example. I mean, I had been on life support. They kept lying by a machine. And then, doctors say we can't fix you. But when you can do it yourself and walk away from that, I had still not talked about it probably as freely as I will now because of that issue with my throat chakra. I was always afraid of, being hung as I was in that lifetime. Not sure if that answered your question, but.
Right. It is that physical sensation also of being hung, that can affect your throat chakra. So I think there's many layers that you've dug in.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Anybody have any questions?
Dianne, you had me at you were Asian, and then the shoes sent me into just tears, and then the dress, and then you gave your babies. I'm sitting over here listen, because your stories are always, your journey is I connect to your journey.
I know you do.
Yeah, I do. And, in the beginning, you were talking about how you had your review and it was, you had the throat issue from Jamie, where she told you about your throat chakra issue you needed to revisit. But I love that you went to your office, cleaned it out, and you knew you had some residual work to do. And so you did the work. You did your cleaning, you meditated, you did the channeling, which led to this beautiful story. And then we have our own little star, Avani, over there helping you do your past life regression. And then the two of you come across this beautiful, beautiful chapter in your journey. And I love too how, like you were saying, that life, all you wanted to do was help others. And you had to help yourself before you could help others. And this life too, So I love how the two, you can definitely tie the two lives together too. Thanks for sharing that.
Well, thank you. And yeah, Jamie had made that connection too, because I shared with her mid-cycle in there. And she thought it was such a coincidence about the Great Plague back then. And of course, the pandemic now. So we thought that was a pretty coincidence too. So
what did Michael think about this?
He totally resonated with it. We went on to other things. I mean, he understood that it was my thing to clear and recognize that it was my healing that needed to be done. We were trying to figure out the significance between my spirit guide being named Thomas and the little boy in that lifetime whose name was Thomas. So I had asked when I was channeling with Michael, and we just kind of got that it was just a coincidence. Either that or there's something else that may come to me later.
Dianne, I really liked that you had this forethought and didn't hang on to, you didn't seem to make it at this time as to how you got pregnant. That didn't seem to come into your awareness, but yet you had the awareness that your children would be better off, better cared for, have better opportunities if they went with this woman. And you didn't seem to hold on to that because in this lifetime, you don't have children.
Right.
And I've never heard you comment or have any kind of energetic reaction to not having children in this lifetime. Whereas some people would hold on to that and have a longing or feel like they missed something, and you never gave that. So that's pretty cool that you were able to have that happen there, and you were happy to know they were cared for. So all those things were in place. I also found it real interesting that you were not afraid to die. You just wanted so much to help the people that were there.
Dianne, can you touch on that a little bit? Because I love how beautiful it was when you described it. So you're hanging there, and instead of worrying about yourself, can you kind of tell them energetically that experience of passing your knowledge?
I remember I pictured like my brain, and I pictured like a bubble collecting the information that was needed, not like all the junk or all like just little things, but the knowledge that Michael or Thomas in that lifetime would need to help heal other people. And then realizing that he was my son, so he probably had some of the gifts that I had. So it was almost like activating for him, but I just pictured like a white bubble come up off my head, and I saw it like portray over him and then shower into his brain, into his head through his crown chakra. And I just pictured that. And I remember seeing it go in right before I died. So.
Which now makes me wonder, do we have the capability? I shouldn't say do we have the capability, but it never crossed my mind that we might be able to be giving downloads to each other.
Absolutely.
Downloads may not necessarily just come from non-physicals.
Why not?
I wouldn't have thought of that. I wouldn't have thought of it until you got home.
He was my son, though.
Do you mean download in like when you're doing like Avani's role of hypnotist, or do you mean like just in conversation?
I was thinking like energetically.
Could we pass information back and forth? I mean, the thing is, there's telepathy, and there's, we can all tap into Christ consciousness, but can you willingly just send information that you have into another? We could probably send it, but are they receiving of it? And are they at the level that they can understand it? So there's probably a lot of different pieces to that, to actually having that happen.
I thought it was interesting. You've got so many gifts in this lifetime that you utilize to help heal people, and you've got quite a bevy of arrows in your quiver that you can pull out. And I thought it was interesting that in the past life they were different, right? There was more on the herbs and foods and things like that. And so I was just wondering if after seeing all of that, if you were drawn to do that, or if you're like, oh no, I'm on to other things now. So I'm just kind of curious as far as the methodologies that you use then and now.
Well, then it was more like I was focused a lot on the herbs and what I could draw from nature. And well, now ladies know I do the essential oils. So you can draw a lot of different aspects with the oils. I do some, I have my own teas. I don't make them or anything. But then also like flower essences. But I'm just drawn to the oils because, if you get a good high grade organic oil that's pure, you can get a lot of the compounds, which goes back to the chemical constituents that help heal us at the subtle energy body.
Well, I feel like your previous life, obviously, you know, known as the healer, the witch, but you had to have used natural things, your natural surroundings then. And I feel like that what has brought you to where you are today is not the medical world, but your world of what you know is best for you and what you put into your body and the natural things that you were doing to heal yourself, because no medicine healed you.
And actually, in first session, we talked about a little bit about the medical community and insurance companies. You want to kind of share your thoughts there?
It was really interesting because for one that's always been the peacemaker, the words that came out of my mouth were pretty almost aggressive. That I was, upset with the culture that we're always almost, and this is a strong word, of brainwash, that we have to go to a doctor to get better. So many times doctors just put band-aids on things, which, like I said, is, there's a time and a place for everything. And when people go to medical doctors, it's acceptable to, I certainly did, but I did it for 25 years until I realized it was my own job to fix me. But, doctors don't recognize the energetic component of healing. And so many times, like we were talking, the subtle energy bodies is a part that a lot of doctors don't even recognize. And that's where I think a lot of the ultimate healing can take place. And by looking within, like Avani said, when things are brought before us, it's not pointing a finger at somebody else, it's pointing the finger back at us.
This goes back also to, for those who have children, you send your kids to school and we're taught certain things at school, but there are certain things that families try and put on the educational system that really isn't their responsibility for an instructor to be teaching your children. There are certain things you got to teach them at home and shouldn't be relying on the external world to do it for you. So in all fairness to doctors, which I'm on the same page with you on that, but in all fairness to them, let's think of this. There are some people who never go, which was me, and then there are people who go for every little thing. A lot of the time that is spent on people that really don't have issues, they're taking up a lot of doctor time on these things that they could be caring for on their own, but they look to the medical community. And then there's the people that have serious issues, and the doctor can just do so much because you're coming to them for assistance. But how often do they need to get it through our heads? You need to eat better. You need to sleep better. You need to stop smoking. How about you don't drink so much? You know what I mean? So we keep going to them for these quick fixes. They can only offer us prescriptions and whatever else they have us do because they're expecting us to take over our own care. And they should. And we need to turn that light bulb on and say, you know what? Like, I remember being at the cancer center, and then I came home and I was smoking a cigarette. And I thought, you know what? This is really stupid because I'm going to the cancer center for not for lung cancer, but still, I have a doctor who's trying to help me, and I'm over here having a cigarette. It was just dumb. And how often do we do these things?
And what would happen if there was a world where, we had people like Dianne who shared their knowledge about healing, and we didn't really need to rely on an external force to heal us, and we could do it ourselves?
That would be a great thing, obviously, but there's also a lot to be said for the now. If we could just learn to work together with them, not all one way or the other. There's a lot of things changing, DNA, science, all those things. I don't want to minimize those wonderful things that, because we still come in with certain issues that we need assistance with. But maybe we would stop being so suspect of them if there was more of a bridge between us. And maybe instead of having so many specialists, maybe we go to the naturopath, get more into more natural. Well, starting just like what you said at the beginning of this, it's like picture doctors as readers and psychics. How many are you going to keep going to and not do the work? Same thing.
You know, I can almost see though the prescriptions of the future instead of, you know, prescription and go get pills and all that kind of stuff. A prescription of the future is like what Dianne said. This is what you need to fix yourself.
Exactly. Download.
This is your download prescription.
And how many people are out there designing accessories out of crystals that are prescriptive? Herbs, you know, all these things that are prescriptive. It's just a matter of, but people, you can't just do that and not take the responsibility of taking care of yourself. You know, you got to do the work. Exactly like what you were saying. Look at all the things Dianne did before she went for that second thing. She cleared her office. She took a hot and cold shower. What else did you do? You went on a hike. You put effort because it was important. You put effort into this. You broke it down. So by the time you swung back around for your clearing, you had done a lot of the pulling back of the layers. Now, granted, I mean, Avani, you're a hypnotherapist, and Dianne, your business is emotions. So how would somebody who doesn't have these skill sets that you two have, what kind of feedback are you getting from clients, both of you, who have had these experiences with like what you guys had? Do they come out with that much depth?
For me, some people need the looking outside the box. They're, you know, they tell me a situation oftentimes, but they can't see the situation outside themselves. And so I can tell them from my viewpoint how I'm hearing them, quote, talk about a situation. And I can say the things that maybe their friends wouldn't say to them. Like, well, why aren't you doing, you know, you just said that you want to do more meditation, but yet you're telling me you watched TV for 4 hours the other night. Or, you know, you wanted to work on this new program. But when you're given the opportunity to do it, you don't take it. I had someone a while ago that said she just wanted to have somebody take her kids for a while so she could, you know, do all this stuff. Well, she got a thing in the mail for a coupon to send the kids to like this was before the pandemic, obviously, but to send the kids to like a gym for $20. All the kids got to go to this thing. So she had like a half a day all to herself. I said, well, what'd you do? And she said, oh, I cleaned the house, I paid bills. I'm like, no. You told me you wanted to have some time just to do this. You could have done all that stuff, but taken an hour for yourself. So when people are given the opportunities, they flow back into, we must stay in the physical, when so much of these answers are at a higher level that we need to quiet our mind, you know, calm the energy around us, find a room that's not completely cluttered, or step out in nature and take the time to step outside the 3D, because we all get stuck in the 3D with things we have to do. Well, the stuff will still have to be done tomorrow. So take the time now to focus on what you, you know, just take an hour or 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever is your time. I think taking the time to really consider things and feel what's coming up, not really, you know, think about it too, but feel it.
Otherwise, you get into the trap of overthinking, overanalyzing, and you're coming at it from a different point of view. For my clients, I always give them the analogy of a rubber band, and you're stretching it. The more you're stretching yourself to do things, a lot of things, you're really stretching that rubber band. And once you relax, it goes back into its shape. You let go and it goes back into its shape. But if you don't stop yourself, all you're doing is stretching this rubber band back and forth, and you're not seeing your patterns. And you got to be okay seeing your patterns, because otherwise you go right back into that same thing over and over and over. And it's really a spinning of the wheels.
I think that's where I come into place, you know, is helping somebody see those patterns, right? Whether it's this lifetime or a previous lifetime. What are those residual energies and patterns that we're carrying around with us? And when, you know, oftentimes somebody will come to me and say, you know what, I want to work on my relationship with my husband, or I want to work on my relationship with my children. But it could really come back to that relationship that you have with yourself, or maybe even some relationships from your parents that have been passed down to you in this lifetime, or something that had happened in your past, past lifetime that's coming up now. So I think the importance, like for me, when I'm working with somebody, is to pull as much of that information, that relevant information that's going to come out, try to intuitively ask the right questions, find those similarities. Are there people, are there situations, are they emotions, things that are kind of coming up, and what are the similarities between them? And then help you build that story so that when we go back to that session too, we know that full story. We have an idea of how it's impacting your life today. And then we can break those bonds of times by going in and clearing some of that out in your subconscious. Then it's up to someone like Dianne did to really internalize that and process it and come up with their own conclusions too. I can help them, I can lead them, but again, we go back to, clients also have to do the work.
So what else, Avani? I mean, I feel like we do our best work when we are passionate about our work. And I can feel like that energy from you. So what else can hypnosis be used for?
Yeah, so it can be used for all sorts of things, right? Whether it's, people come for like weight loss, people come for phobias, fears. There's different types of regression. So,
Avani, you totally had me at weight loss.
or stopping to smoke, unless you're Abby, who just gets cancer and then stops to smoke. Yeah. And then, and there's different types of regression. So right now, most of what I'm practicing is age regression. So that's taking you within this lifetime, and past life regression. Soon enough, I'll also be doing lives between lives. So I can take clients, in between to find out different things about their soul families and counsels and guides, things like that. It's great for spiritual people who are trying to just kind of get more deeper into their spiritual path. And it's great for people who are, have some issues that they want to look at. Again, it really is it's great if you're willing to do the work.
Absolutely. And I just, I've seen past life regressions. We've all seen the movies, some of them horror movies with the past life regressions. I've heard of past life regressions all my life, but I'll be honest, I've heard past life regression, but I've never heard the follow-up session for the clearing. So how did that come into play?
That was part of the program that I was, part of, and that's how I learned. You're right. Like a lot of practitioners will do one session and they'll take you into like little bits and pieces. And so it's fun, right? You get to see a past life, but not all past life regressionists are actually helping you tie everything together and actually do something about it. And I think that's when I was picking a program, I thought it was important for me to do something that was impactful to someone's life, not just fun. Fun is there, but it's also working with people who are willing to help transmute it.
Well, I was going to ask about, I love the fact that you're doing something to be able to impact this life. And you were talking about that you can do past life regressions and you can do, all these things to be able to heal and all that. And so I'm wondering also in between life regressions as well, which is amazing. So is there also a possibility of future life? Not regressions, but projections, like projecting into future lives as well. Is that something? Because I could see, along with the emotion, but also with the hypnosis, being able to almost do an area of creation. I don't know, what are your thoughts on that?
Exactly. That is absolutely true. And that's another modality that I'm going to take on because, if time doesn't really exist, then we can manipulate time and we can go forward or backwards into it or, into another dimension, right? If we're really looking at lives between lives, because everything is already in our subconscious, whether it's something we've done in a linear sense or something we will do in a linear sense. It's all recorded.
And it's almost like it's kind of like when you do a lucid dream. You know, you've got these dreams and all these things are happening and strange things that you're seeing and all that. But in a lucid dream, you get to a point where you're like, oh, I'm dreaming. I can now take control of this and I can make it go in the direction I want it to go in. So it seems like, you know, future life or projecting life, even as much as even in this life, now we're taking control. We're creating, we're actually building that life that we wanted to, whether that's this one or any others. It's very exciting.
Exactly. And they do a little bit of that in the past life regression, like with Dianne, where we talked about, you know, what, now that she's known all this stuff, what is she going to do differently? How does, you know, a few months, days, you know, look like for her? But again, with that future life, we really go much more into the future.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story, Dianne, and for letting me, you know, be a part of your journey. I really am honored that, you know, you allowed to share that piece of your life with me and those lives, I guess.
Well, thank you. Like when, you know, doing that clearing, I think brought up so many of the pieces that helped the puzzle fall together, from all the tidbits that I had. So thank you for helping me out with that. I definitely appreciate that helpful clearing. So
I have one more question. When you go through this and you go through a clearing or your session, what happens to the person? Like, was there any kind of residual stuff a day later, or is there any kind of physical or emotional? Since you're releasing all this stuff, what happens? What are the symptoms?
So usually sometimes after the first session before we do the clearing, because things have started to open up, that's when people, you know, might feel exhausted, tired, have dreams, see symbols, you know, things will start showing up to guide you that, you know, this is actually a thing. You have to be willing to look at it and notice it. And you'll start seeing signs. After the clearing, we do some clearing, so there shouldn't be a lot, depending on what percentage you clear. Say we come through the session and you've cleared 70%, that 30% is still out there. So that may be residual things that could potentially, you know, kind of come back. But after the clearing, you should be in a better state than, you know, right after we open that jar wide open, crack that jar wide open, and then, you know, you start having some dreams or, you know, some physical symptoms.
I think it would be different for everyone. For me personally, I felt fantastic. I felt lighter. I felt freer and ready to move forward. So it's very, very clearing for me. But yeah, I think it would be different for everyone. So, well, thank you everyone for joining us today, for sitting at the table, and check back with us again soon for the next session. See y'all soon.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, ladies. What a great discussion. I really loved that. Dianne did such a great job working to transmute that energy she brought forward to this life. You know, I personally met with Avani not too long ago as well for my past life regression, and let me just say it got pretty emotional. And this episode really inspired me to go back, dig in, and do some more work to transmute that energy that was pulled up for me. And I also know that Lee and Rose had their past life regression not too long ago too with Avani. So I'm thinking we'll do another episode to share more. Let us know what you think. Go to our Beyond the Cosmic Table Instagram account and comment on the post for this episode and let us know your thoughts. And if you're interested in learning more about past life regression, how it works, and you want to consider a session for yourself, visit Avani's website at eternalalchemists.com. I'll also add it in the show notes. Simply complete the intake form and a free consultation can be scheduled to see if it's the right fit for you. Mention this podcast at the time of purchase and receive $10 off your package. All right, as always, we appreciate you so much and love having you listen in as we share all about our spiritual and metaphysical experiences. Thank you, and see you back at the table next week.